Mhm.
All right. We are live. We're recording. We're doing this. Welcome everyone. How you all doing? I'm pumped. I've got Mark, I've got Alex. Guys, how you doing?
Doing well. Used to be here.
Yeah, great to be here, Steve. Thank you.
Absolutely. So here's the deal. We're talking about telephony stuff. I'll be honest. So, for those of you who don't know me, hi, I'm Steve. I ran an MSP for over a decade. I've been an IT professional since 2002, and I feel older and older every day because of it. Um, the chat is open. The Q&A is open. If you guys want to, you know, make sure this stays a dialogue and stays a conversation between all of us instead of just Mark, Alex, and me talking at you. We would love that. All right. So, one of the things that I despised was giving myself a whole bunch of extra work for work's sake. So I never got into doing like uh VoIP stuff. Now, that's not entirely true. I started reselling it through one of the big popular companies. We don't need to name them. There's plenty. Um and, they've done well. I just got a couple commission checks, in the last few months. I mean, they're still rolling in even though I haven't done anything with it in a decade. So I'm pleased. It works well. But when you roll your own service, now you're not getting surprise phone calls from clients because things are down, and you can start delivering the features, the functionality that your clients are asking for instead of just hoping that your vendor will do it or whatever, right? So it's a lot more customizable, it's a lot more turnkey when you do it yourself. But Mark, I gotta say, man, taxes and fees and regulations, it's all a little much for me. So I never did it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what a lot of service providers conclude. But we always say the matter of having the right people on your team, having the right solutions in place, it actually makes it very, very easy. And I think we're seeing a lot of that these days. But there's some very, very powerful solutions around, and people can do amazing things now. Just got to sort of investigate and see what's available. There is so much available to everybody right now. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's it's a great time to be in business, I believe.
I agree.
Mm.
So if you don't recognize them, I've got Mark, the founder and CEO from Datagate here. Datagate is a telecom billing platform. So the goal today is Mark is going to start by teaching us all a little bit more about the taxes and the fees and the regulations and how all of this stuff kind of just works together. He's also going to talk to us about some software tools that Datagate can integrate with to help automate and just simplify some of the taxes and all that for you. And then we're going to talk about how all of that can integrate into your PSA because let's be honest, if you're an MSP today, then you've already got a PSA, right? So we've got Alex. He is your head of product now, right?
I am, yeah. Head of product here at PSA.
Yeah. So he is now the head of product. So he got a little promotion, which means a little promotion means a lot more work and a lot more responsibility. But I'll tell you this, Alex is definitely up for the challenge. Um, so so if anything's broken on your Halo PSA, he's the guy to reach out to. It's all his fault now. Um, but no, he's going to talk about how you can get that data from Datagate into Halo, so that way, sure, Datagate is helping you manage all of the telecom billing, but then you still want your PSA to be, the source of truth. Everyone wants that single pane of glass, right? And then I'm here from Alternative Payments to show everyone um, how we can take all of that from Datagate, from Halo, and provide it to your customers easily, quickly, and get you paid fast. Because what do they say? Cash is king, right? So we want to make sure we get you connected with your money as quickly as possible. So that's the goal of this webinar here is we're going to talk about the taxes and all the scary stuff, and then we're going to show you how some of the software can take all that scary stuff and not seem so scary. We're not talking any service delivery stuff today though, so we're just talking back office admin stuff. Any questions so far? Feel free to pop them in the chat. I will interrupt everybody and go through them. Otherwise, Mark, please, sir,
Hey.
why don't you dive on in, man?
Yeah, well, thank you for that great introduction, and certainly, yeah, there is definitely some scary stuff in telecom, but really, as I said before, we know that you know, let's look at why would you go into the scary stuff and what's there to help you with it, and why it's not so scary when you know what's available for you. So first of all, the slide here, why would you sell telecom services if you're an IT focused MSP? Why would you extend into telecom? And some of our audience are actually guys that come from telecom, and why would they go into IT? Some of them looking the other way around. So, but certainly looking at telecom, I mean, most businesses need a phone system. I mean, it's a universal demand. It's just a matter of who they're going to buy it from. It's a strong recurring revenue and profit margin business. I've had customers in hysterics laughing with me saying, I can't believe how much margin I'm making on this phone system. It's incredible. But that really depends on how you set it up. And so it can be extremely good. It really depends how deep you want to get into it. And it's basically providing the full MSP service now. Because telecom is definitely a part of the MSP environment. It's been proven that businesses really prefer to buy their phone systems and connectivity systems off their MSP, so they don't have so many people to point fingers at when things go wrong. It just, they can hold, what do they say? Choke one throat. Who's responsible if something goes wrong? So businesses prefer to buy phones off their MSP and connectivity off their MSP. And so that's what we're talking about here is voice, phone systems, and connectivity as well. So,
And another way to put that is it does make you, your MSP, a little more sticky when you're the one providing all the service, you know.
absolutely.
Not that I'm encouraging you like hold them hostage or anything, because that's not cool. But
No,
making yourself sticky doesn't mean bad thing. It just means you're showing value. You're like they're seeing a tangible service. Because a lot of times with the IT service stuff, especially if you're not doing the QBRs and, you know, helping them look, you know, a few years ahead and planning and projects and all that stuff. A lot of times the IT stuff just feels like all they're doing is buying some Microsoft 365 and an antivirus from people.
mm,
Not that I'm saying you are doing that. I'm just saying that some MSPs are doing that. So
yeah,
you should go above and beyond. Show them some
that's right.
tangible work, right?
Absolutely. And in fact, if you don't provide the phone system, you leave the door open for another MSP to come in, gain their traction into your customer by supplying a phone system in the first instance. And that's once they got their foot in the door, then you risk losing the whole customer. So, yeah, these are great points. Thank you, Steve. And on the screen, I've got courtesy of our Datagate marketing department. Datagator. So Datagate is the gator on the left, and on the right we have a little robot called Telecom Bill, and we use them in our marketing just to try and make it not such a serious subject. I mean, it's a heavy subject, telecom billing, but we like to make it easy, and so even comes through in our marketing to make it a bit more accessible. So why do you need a telecom billing system? Because basically it's a lot of work if you don't have it. If you want to do it properly, there's a lot of aspects to selling telecom, and I guess to compare that, what would you have to do if you were going to do this all manually? You'd be downloading CDR files from your telecom provider. You'd be rating calls. You'd be using all sorts of calculations, maybe spreadsheets, and reconciling things. You'd be calculating taxes, which is incredibly complicated. Now, why
Mhm.
is that? If you're in the United States, it's complicated, I should say. In the United States, there are thousands of tax jurisdictions. The taxes are dependent on where your customer is located, not where you're located. So you might start your business off and all your customers are in your same county, same state as you. But people move around, and as soon as a customer opens up in another branch or they move somewhere, the different tax rules will apply. These tax rules change all the time. You just, I mean, the more jurisdictions your customers across, the more changes will happen. Every jurisdiction uses different logic. The jurisdictions include obviously the federal government. It includes state, counties, cities, parishes. All of these different jurisdictions, they're all issuing tax rules, and those rules can change. So very
I didn't even
complicated.
think about like, yeah, federal and state makes sense. I forgot about counties.
Mm, counties
Like,
do.
yeah,
That's
I mean,
right.
that makes sense.
Yep.
Um, I remember, I mean, 30 years ago when you would get a phone number, the area code was for the most part based on the county that you were in. Now there's so many companies, residences, people with cell phones that there's, 3, 4 area codes for each of the counties in Northeast Ohio. Um, and then, you look at some of the more populated areas like, New York or Houston, I'm sure they've got even more area codes, which is insane to me.
Absolutely. I mean, it is. So really, it comes back to my opening statement: is that if you've got the right solutions and the right people on your team, you can do all this. In fact, you can do it very
Mhm.
profitably as well. When it comes to calculating telecom taxes, it's something that you've got to be accurate. But you don't want to pay too much tax either. You don't want to be charging too much tax. It makes you less competitive. I mean, the biggest tax of all is the FUSF, which is the federal uh, safe FCC tax
Yeah.
that's levied on all communications to basically take money to fund connectivity to places that wouldn't normally um, be able to either afford it or pay for it. So it's a big tax, and there are things you can do to reduce that, and things like traffic studies and bundling of your services so that you're being very precise about what you're charging taxes on, and what not. But overall, you've got to be accurate. You've got to be able to defend all this. It's got to be correct and follow the law. But it can be done more correctly to make you more competitive and make your business more profitable. So that's an area that Datagate, we're right into partnerships. We have very, very skilled tax partners that work with us. We have 4 different telecom tax engines that you can plug into Datagate, so we can provide a tax engine as part of the deal. So, and the cool thing with these tax engines is that uh, they have teams of researchers that are monitoring all the different jurisdictions, and they are programming all the changes in, because changes are often announced ahead of time. So they've got to be scheduled into the tax engine to say, okay, on this date, this particular state is going to change its calculation to this. And so the tax engine is like this powerful database that's got all these rules and regulations. Um, and not only is it, area bound, so it's, whereabouts in the US are you located and which jurisdictions apply. It's also time based as well. When is this invoice being issued, and how does that relate into all the rules and regulations? So it's
Yeah.
something I personally would never want to get into that, working it out manually. It's far better left to the experts, and it really doesn't cost a lot in the terms of your business to add this. So these are sort of, we're getting into all the things that are very different about telecom billing to other kinds of billing. And Datagate, it does covers things like sending, bulk invoices. If you did, you'd have to send out all your invoices by email. We talked about traffic studies and then passing all that information through to your other systems. And here we're talking about passing it through to HaloPSA. So we're a great believer in the single pane of glass that you mentioned earlier on. Um, so so without a telecom billing system, well, it gets complicated. So Datagate sits here. It talks directly to your telecom providers, your telecom switches, etc. It retrieves those CDR records, the call detail records. It works with the most reputable telecom tax engines in the United States for calculating the correct telecom taxes. It can then send those invoices out to your customers, and it can pass that invoice over to HaloPSA, where it becomes visible to all the techs in the business who are using Halo. And in fact, on that basis, it synchronizes from Halo the pricing information, customer information, contracts, etc. So what we would say to an MSP is, if you're a Halo MSP, you should use Halo as your main system. Put all your all your reps, your techs use Halo to set up deals, and Datagate will just read off Halo and operate in the background. So we often are, in that respect, sort of in the background, and Halo is the sort of front to it. But we handle a lot of the different complexities that come up in the telecom side of a business. So producing a telecom invoice is the key thing. Now, a telecom invoice is very different to other invoices. I mean, think of your cell phone bills that you get. There's all sorts of complexity. In the telecom world, we have, I mean, typically our invoices are completely configurable. So we can make an invoice look like however you want it to look, but there's typical pieces of a telecom invoice that are very important. First of all, the summary to cut through all the complexity. Here's what we've sold. Here's the tax. There's what 3,627 in this case. We can put all sorts of information about payment terms as you would normally expect on an invoice. Then we have a product and services detail, which is recurring services. So these are things that are just every month we charge the same amount. They can be for data circuits, SIP trunks, seats on a phone system, support packages, etc. And these can be configured in Halo and just picked up by Datagate to build here. And we've got also over here we've got like toll details, usage charges. So these are the where we get from the CDR records. We can give a summary of what calls have been made. Any other usage, we can put sections in here like separating out interstate and intrastate. Now that's a really important subject. We talked about USF taxes before, the biggest tax of all on telecom. That is something that you can either calculate yourself based on your real data, and that's the comparison between interstate and intrastate. So states made in the calls made in the state or across the states. That tax is applicable to the out-of-state calls, the interstate calls. And so if you don't provide this data to the FCC, you end up using what they call a safe harbor rate, and that's the highest rate of all. And it means they're going to estimate that 60% of your, or thereabouts, don't quote me exactly, 60% or thereabouts of your VoIP calls will be considered to be interstate. And you might say, well, that's not true. Look at my customer data. So anyway, I'm probably getting too deep into the weeds here, but basically that we working with a tax partner, we can optimize your tax rate. So that's all visible on the invoice, and then of course you've got the tax section here, and you can see all the different taxes that have been applied. This particular invoice looks like it was issued for a customer in California, so it's got all the California taxes. There's the Federal Universal Service Fund tax that I talked about, and here at the bottom of the section, this is something that a lot of people don't know about. This is where the MSP can claim back some of the costs involved in complying with all these tax rules. So in the United States, it's quite allowable, quite feasible to put a recovery fee into the invoice. It sits amongst all the taxes, but it's actually the service provider claiming back. It's usually a percentage of the invoice, maybe 1 or 2 or 3%, and it's to cover the cost of Datagate or tax engines or any other software or services that you deem that are involved in the compliance with the tax situation.
I love how that one is currently 13 cents. At that point,
right.
Why bother?
Yeah, that's right.
How many recovery fees can we add to this thing? How many BS fees can I make up and put on my customer invoices?
Well, typically just one, and typically
Oh,
it's a lot
okay.
higher than that. Now you have to appreciate when Datagate, we're to create demos like this, we're having to make up data all the time, and one of our team made up a lot of this for me. We don't like using people's real data,
Sure.
but yes, it would normally be a lot higher than that. Not normally 2 or 3% of the invoice sometimes, and that's to cover the cost of the tax compliance partner and potentially Datagate as well. So there, I would say, okay, I've heard people say, look, the cost of potentially Datagate or the tax partner could be considered to be free if you claimed it all back on the cost recovery fee. But I must say, seek advice on this. Don't accept that from me.
Yeah.
I'm not a tax expert. That's why I need to put on the record. I'm just someone that sees a lot of this going on, and Datagate is designed to be fully compatible with all the tax expertise that's available. So
Yeah.
this is very much in the United States. This is a big subject if you're selling telecom services. So that's and then in terms of looking at Datagate, Datagate. I won't go too far into this. As I mentioned before, it can be driven pretty much through Halo, your PSA system, but it keeps a record of all your customers that are selling telecom. If I zoom into one here, we've got a Terry's Chocolates customer.
That's my favorite company, by the way, because it's the chocolate.
Yes, right. Yeah, it's that's right. You'll see we've just got lots of fields of information, lots of tabs of data. I won't go into all this, but this is basically so we can handle all the different situations that you get into with selling telecom. We can bring a lot of information from very powerful accounting systems and PSA systems, and we can be compatible, with that. And we do things like if I look at the products tab, here are the different recurring charges that we throw on the invoice, for the SIP trunk and the hosted seats and some support packages. These are recurring charges that can be set up inside Datagate or set up inside Halo and then copied through to Datagate. And we also have what we call service items, which are all the phone numbers that Datagate will recognize as they come in on the CDRs. It will recognize, hey, that phone number belongs to Terry's Chocolate, so we will put that charge against Terry's business. So that way, we're sorting out all the calls that come in, who do they belong to, etc. We have a tab for surcharges, and that's where we can set up that cost recovery fee. We can also see all the invoices here. And so these are all Terry's Chocolates invoices. I can view them from here. I should say that, this is the same invoice we were just looking at. And so the invoice formatting, we can, that's can be tailored to the requirements of the reseller. I'd also say that now a lot of our customers have got Datagate running in automatic mode, which basically means you can set up a time and date and say, just run the invoices on that date and it all gets done. So
That's
typically a lot
impressive.
of this happens automatically. It's and this is the way the world's going. People don't want to spend a lot of time on these things, and so once it's all set up, it's like a machine that runs itself, and hence the title of our presentation.
So how customizable is the layout of this invoice? Is some of this required to look the way it does because of regulations?
Yes, absolutely. And in different and of course I should mention we are an international vendor. We sell in the UK and Canada and as well as the US. The US is our big market. Also Australia and New Zealand. Now each country has rules on how a phone bill should look. So we are very cognizant of that. And the other thing I'd say is that we can produce pretty much any format. It's all sort of templated. Some people will say, hey, look, here's an AT&T invoice. We want it to look like this.
Yeah.
You mentioned AT&T is a good partner of ours that a lot of MSPs are selling connectivity through them. So a connectivity bill has got certain fields and a look to it as well. So it's flexible.
But can I guess what I'm asking is can they hop in here with like some HTML and customize things or is it only templates that they can use?
We can set up templates for them. So we've got consultants that can do this for them. So it's a part of our service. We have an online team that can make changes like that. We in the past we've offered services like that directly to customers to use, but it's actually a lot more efficient to have somebody who's doing this sort of thing all the time and they can do it quickly and so I find that more efficient.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So we've made an invoice here for Terry's chocolates at Datagate.
Yeah.
Now what? Now we got to get it into Halo, right?
Yeah, that's right. So two things happen. You can send this out to the customer. That's optional. Some resellers will say send it to the customer. Some will say no, don't send it to the customer. Update the Halo agreement so Halo can bill the invoice, and that's very very common too. That can be done. You don't get the same the format as here. That's under control of Halo. Uh, and the other thing that can be done is send the invoice to Halo, complete with all this formatting, send the PDF through, and Halo can then, obviously we'll pass that on to QuickBooks, and then I'm stepping into your territory, Steve, but then I think that gets through to alternative payments, and then you guys can handle from there. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of different ways of configuring this, of how you want the customer to receive this. The last thing we want to do is confuse the end customer, getting too many invoices, and so I'm setting you up there, Steve, to come back on all this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Good.
set up Alex first.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks for that demo, Mark. I think even I've learned a lot from that. You did touch on kind of the configurability of the integration. I think that is one of the main advantages that I've seen from the customers I've onboarded with Halo and Datagate is it really is up to you as to how you want it to bill. Whether you want to include that on an existing contract for the customer, whether you want to spin it up as a standalone invoice. I think giving people that control is really a good advantage. But I guess a bit of background on how Halo and Datagate, that partnership became a thing. So I think I met you, Mark, about 2 years ago in Vegas. Yeah. So at that time we didn't really integrate with any telecom providers. And there were some real horror stories that we encountered of people trying to process these CDRs and manage that telecom data in various different ways. I dealt with a client once that was importing all their CDRs manually into a SQL database, running a script, and then importing them one by one into QuickBooks. So I think we kind of saw some of those horror stories, and we're really looking for both something that could service those existing customers and make that process more efficient for those MSPs already selling telecom, and also provide it as an option for those MSPs that might be on this call today that have considered getting into that telecom industry but are daunted by some of the taxes and the back end admin that has to take place without a tool like Datagate. So once we got introduced to Mark, we spoke to the technical team. We got this integration spun up, and it really has been a great partnership ever since. But yeah, I guess if we can bring up Halo, I can show you what this looks like on the Halo side.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So yeah, this is exactly the same invoice that Mark just showed us. So you see all the usage charges, the packages, the recovery fee, and the telecom taxes, all listed out here on the Halo side. Again, it is optional as to whether you want to spin this up as a standalone invoice, as it is in this case, or there is also the option that we can tie it in with some of your existing contracts and recurring services and have everything bill against one invoice. So that really improves quality of life for your customers. They're not logging into 3 different portals to view their invoices or receiving separate emails. Everything's all standardized in one place. And especially with the integration with alternative payments that we'll get onto, it really improves their quality of life in actually paying for these services. But I'd say the main advantage of using Halo alongside Datagate to manage this telecom billing is that single pane of glass view that we've spoken about already. So there is that ability to, obviously through the PSA, bill for all your recurring services, your licenses, all of your hardware, your managed services, as well as any ad hoc labor that you might be billing for as well, any hourly projects. Obviously, that is all handled natively through the PSA, but also being able to bring in these telecom charges into Halo via Datagate means that everything is under that single pane of glass. All the data is available through the PSA, and that can lead to some real good actionable insights that we can gain from that consolidated view. So I guess to talk through that aspect a bit more, so Halo obviously has its inbuilt reporting suite. And the data that we have access to means that we see all of the revenue that you see across the services that you offer, including the telecom. It means that we get all that cost information from your hardware provider, for example, if you're integrating with a TD Synnex or an Ingram to bring hardware data into Halo, we then get that cost information. And we also get the cost information for your license fees through our integrations with the likes of Microsoft CSP and PAX8, etc. So all of that comes into Halo, so we've got it all in one product. What we also see, which kind of gives us an advantage over doing this reporting out of your accounting tool, is that we have that in-depth information on your labor costs. So if I go into an agent record on this side, you'll see that every agent in our system has a cost per hour set against them. And what that means is via Halo, we have that tie-in from your revenue back to the contract, back to all the services associated to that contract. We also have any hardware involved in a project implementation, for example, as well as all of the labor. Your techs are working mainly out of Halo. They're recording all of their time in Halo. Each technician has a cost associated with them. So we have that tie back from the revenue to the contract, to the labor, to the cost, and we can build some really in-depth kind of profitability reporting across your various contracts and also your client base and your services as a whole. So that is all available. We've got all of the data available. Our reporting suite allows you to surface that, and we can use that information to really draw on some real actionable insights. Maybe it surfaces that your margins on a particular contract are lower than you thought. We can tie that into kind of making changes to the structure of that contract to really drive your margins as much as possible. So yeah, that's I'd say would be the main advantage of bringing everything into Halo in the first place.
Now, when they create the invoice in Datagate and then they export that or import that into Halo, does Halo then need to create the invoice again?
So Datagate creates the invoice in Halo. We would then sync that across to the accounting tool.
Got it.
So again, this is a native integration. So Halo is essentially acting as the middleman in this scenario.
Mhm.
Datagate is doing all of the processing, all of the tax calculations, sending that wholesale into Halo, as well as the PDF. So I can generate the PDF against this invoice, and you'll see a similar PDF. I think exactly the same PDF actually is not just displayed on the Datagate side. So we do have that ability to bring in all of those regulatory requirements for how you present this invoice to the customer and display that on the Halo side. We can, like I say, consolidate that with other invoices, maybe for your managed services or your licenses or your labor. And then we push that wholesale into QuickBooks Online as well. So again, that's via the native integration. Anyone using HaloPSA probably has an accounting integration currently set up. So the only difference here is rather than you generating this directly from Halo, Datagate's pushing it across, and Halo's then pushing it to the accounting tool.
And then you mentioned consolidating the telecom bill with other invoices like MSP and other services. So how does that work? Are you still creating multiple invoices and then you're just sending them a unified PDF with everything, or are you making a new invoice? What's that look
It's
like?
it's really up to you. So it's very configurable, like I mentioned before, the integration as to how we want to spin these up. But this screen kind of gives you an idea of the various different types of invoicing we can do out of Halo. Um, so this is a demo system, so there's not much data in here, but you'll see we've got all of our recurring charges. So we've got some business premium licenses, some managed services, contract charges. We can also bill for ad hoc labor. So if there's any T&M projects that you're doing, we can bill for that labor. Or if you're charging hourly for any service offerings, we can bill for that here as well. Any hardware items that you've issued against tickets, any sales orders that you've got in the system can all be invoiced through this one pane of glass. And what I can do is I can basically select, okay, I want to invoice these two recurring charges for Terry's chocolates, maybe a couple of labor charges as well, maybe some hardware from an existing sales order that they've just signed. I can hit create invoice. And then you've got the option as to whether that spins up separate invoices, consolidates it all into one per client, per site, um, and then have that invoice then sync over to the accounting tool. So it really gives you that flexibility depending on how your clients want to see those invoices, how you want to see it on your side. Really gives you that flexibility to build your own tool. Yeah.
That is really cool. And then I would like to probably throw the asterisk, talk to a professional in your area to make
Yes.
sure you know what you're allowed to combine and whatnot.
Yeah.
Mm.
100%.
D so this is great. So then once we've created the invoice, then you would sync that into QuickBooks.
Yeah, exactly. So the way I've got this set up is pretty much immediately as soon as it arrives into Halo from Datagate, it would then push it across into the accounting system, in this case, QuickBooks. So you'll see that synced over. We have the ability, and I know this is a regulatory requirement. I think, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but we make sure that the invoice ID in the accounting system is the same as it is in Datagate. So all of those numbers line up across the three systems. We push that across. We get back the QuickBooks Online number from them. Any payments recorded against that invoice, which I'm sure Steve will get onto shortly, will also be recorded in there as well as in the accounting tool. And again, the PDF gets generated as well, and we can display that here against the invoice in Halo and even send it out of Halo as well if we want to. So yeah, very straightforward, especially the way we've set it up today in terms of getting that across to the accounting system. And literally as soon as this landed in, Mark's team kindly helped me out with that process. As soon as it landed in, we got it pushed across the QuickBooks so we can see it in there as well. And then, yeah, I guess that's when the alternative payments aspect of this would come in. And I guess I'll hand over to you, Steve, at this stage to show how that
Yeah.
works.
Just one quick question. Matthew wants to know, does that work the same way for recurring invoices? But I don't know that I have enough context to know what he's asking.
If you mean to sync over to QuickBooks, then yes, it works in a similar way. So as soon as you generate the current invoice, obviously for that it would come from Halo, but you would then generate that recurring invoice and it would sync over to your accounting tool immediately once generated. So yeah, it does work in a similar way.
Perfect. Okay. Um, well, as you mentioned, the next step would be alternative payments. So let's talk about why. Um, whether you're using a different customer portal, maybe you've kind of, I'm going to call it, hodgepodged one together, because I mean that's what I did for a little while. You know, you get Stripe, you set up your customers in it, and then like maybe you're doing things a little more manually than you'd like to, but it works and whatever, right? Or maybe you're just sending them an email and they still are doing everything manually. Maybe they're still mailing checks. If I mean, do you guys still get checks? Is that a thing? Um, maybe they're mailing you checks, or maybe they just pay you when they get around to it. Um, that's that's no fun. Uh, so so that's why we built alternative payments, because um, our founder, our CEO, he's a really smart guy. He did finance in New York City for quite a few years. He was part of some like big M&A deals, and the one thing that he kept seeing is, some of these companies could have, I don't know, increased their multiples, or like the owners could have made a little more if their cash flow was just a little better. And what I mean by that is, there's the invoice that you send out, there's the payment that you receive, but there's that gap of time in between the two. So the shorter that gap of time is, the better your cash flow is. Um, when you've got great cash flow, when you've got it down to like, you send out the invoice and you get paid in a matter of just a few days, you're able to do some fantastic things with that money because, you still have vendors that maybe you don't have to pay them for 30 or 60 days. So you almost get to use that money uh, intelligently, I would like to hope, and invest in your business before you have to pay for some of the things that you got for your customers. Otherwise, you are now the bank and providing your customers the loan because you're allowing them to pay you, in 30, 60, 90 days. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you first, I'm going to show you QuickBooks. Now, I'll be honest, it's been quite a few years since I've been in QuickBooks. They have changed the online version quite a bit. So I'm going to stumble through here, but you're going to see, look, we've got two invoices here for Terry's Chocolates. One isn't due for a little while. It was just invoiced, right? But this other one, the one that we've been looking at all morning, DG 1029, this one is overdue for 6 days. And if we click on this, you're going to see, if I know what I'm doing here, let's edit the invoice. What's the worst that could happen? There you go. There's all your line items, everything that you would expect to see in the invoice in QuickBooks Online. Now, this here is alternative payments. This is what you, the MSP, the service provider, would see when you sign into alternative payments. Now, I'd like to think you're going to see a whole lot more invoices in this list than the two that we've generated in this little demo environment. But you'll see we've got, here's DG 1029. And if I click on this, here's the details, and you can see the amount outstanding. You can see when it was created. Just, we like to keep it simple. It's all the important data, but it's simple. And if I were to hit this download button, it's going to generate the PDF. It does, some things and some stuff. It's all very technical. I don't want to bore you with all that. But then look, it's the same invoice, right? But now it's no longer on the Datagate infrastructure. It's actually on our infrastructure. We have pulled that invoice data from Datagate. And let me tell you, I set this integration up the other day with Alex and not Mark, but with Lee. And we were on the call. I think I was done with all three of these things in 15, 20 minutes. So I just went in here to integrations and I set up Halo, then I set up QuickBooks, then I set up Datagate. And there's really not much for settings. I mean, you can come in here to preferences and we made it third party invoice number because that's what Alex told me to do. Uh, and then for QuickBooks, you can auto create bank deposits. I'm going to turn that on. And the reason I'm going to turn that on is because, uh, we're processing the payments for you, right? So let's say a customer pays the invoice, we'll mark it paid, but then a few days later, when we put the money in your bank, we'll create the bank deposit in QuickBooks too. So that's what that little checkbox means for you. Um, and then over here, preferences. This is one of my favorite screens just because again, there's not that many preferences you need to set up. But check this out. You can pass credit card fees to the customers. Um, you can even choose to pass just a certain amount. So we recently went live in Canada, and in Canada, you're only allowed to pass, I don't remember, I'm sorry. I think it's 2.6% is the maximum you can pass to your customers in Canada. So now you have the ability to define exactly how much up to the full amount of fees that you're going to pass to your customers. You can even choose which customers you don't pass those fees to ever. Maybe you did a sweetheart deal on an MSA to get a deal over the line. Whatever. And we've even got this button here. If they're going to pay with auto pay, we just, you cover the credit card fees for the customer. They don't have to pay if it's on auto pay. Now, the really nice thing about alternative payments is ACH is free. Okay. So it's included. Okay. So You don't pay a percentage, you don't pay a flat fee, there's nothing for ACH. So we are always encouraging our partners to get your customers pay you with ACH. Um, so that's how those two work. So
Steve, just while people are asking questions, are you seeing a lot of the customers going now to automatic payment? Because I know I hear about that a lot. Where they once they've got the credit card detail, they can just say, look, every month just pay it. Is that you seeing a lot of that?
we do. So I'd say about 70% of payments, I'm guessing around 70% of payments happen automatically. So
Yeah.
in our platform, you can actually click on this little insights button here. And just from the overview screen, you can see, here's your average time to pay. Here's your average percent of payments that are automated. And then down, if you scroll down, my favorite two charts are the
Mm.
percent of automated payments. So here is how many of your payments happened automatically. Nobody did anything because they just set it up to be auto. And then this
Yep.
number is usually higher activation rate. This is how many of your payments just came through the platform, whether it was auto,
Mm.
whether it was manual. That's how that one works there.
Wow.
So
Cool.
it is an incredibly powerful platform. We're like I said, we're live on accounts receivable. Um, as you can see on my demo here, we're working on some other things like accounts payable. Um, I don't want to give too much away there yet because it's not ready to be shown. But we are quickly becoming the financial OS for MSPs.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Tax fees surcharges are included as an item on the Datagate or Halo invoice. How does the sales tax get included in the sales tax report in QuickBooks Desktop so the tax due is accurate? It's a good question.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
yeah.
oh, do you want to take this one, Mark?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I,
So the way Datagate sends tax over, we do send it over as a separate line item. Not sure if that's something that's configurable, Mark, but that's always how I've seen it done. So that would again be represented within Halo as a separate line item, and then on the accounting side as well. Um, as long as the accounts codes are mapped correctly on within Halo, mapped correctly to the accounting platform, that should be recognized correctly when it goes over there. So yeah, they're not contained within the tax column; they are a separate line item. But we do have kind of several customers doing it that way, and I've not heard of any issues with doing that.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think when you're in QuickBooks and you're looking at an invoice, QuickBooks has the ability for it to calculate the tax for you, and then because it's calculated the tax and put it in the appropriate tax area for sales tax, not for all the other regulatory stuff, but for sales tax. Then QuickBooks has a report for here's how much you owe the government for your sales tax over the last quarter. So I think that's what Teresa's asking is because if
Mm.
if Datagate's putting everything into line items, are those line items going to is QuickBooks going to pick those line items up and realize that they are part of the tax, the sales tax that is owed for that quarter?
Yes. Well, that's really how, depending on how QuickBooks has been configured. I'd also like just to say that the both the Telecom tax engine, whichever one's been chosen, and also Datagate retain all the detail of all the taxes. So, um, what we often say to our clients is that in your actual accounting, it's your choice whether you want to carry all the detail of all the different taxes across to QuickBooks. That's optional whether you want to do that. But I would say a lot of people don't bring that detail. They'd probably sum it into one line and say telecom taxes. They probably keep sales tax separate. But if you go back into the tax engine, you can break down everything. You can look at any particular tax, so you have access to all that data.
Something I didn't even think to mention at the beginning, the 3 of us were at the Vectors show That was last week, right? So
Mm.
our three companies were there last week, and what'd you think of it, Mark? Were you there,
Uh,
Alex?
I missed out on that one,
okay.
unfortunately.
And
Yeah,
what
no,
what'd you
I
think?
was there. It was great actually having the three teams working together. We actually got a good group photo at the end too. But we were yeah, I guess people were moving between the three booths, and it really presented as a very tightly integrated team of solutions, and we had a lot of interest. I think all three businesses were very happy with the response, and I guess the audience there were primarily telecom resellers. So and I think all very keen. They're looking at a lot of the automation, especially in Halo. Very impressed with all the AI work there. Impressed with the tight integration with Datagate, and impressed with the payment handling and follow-up automation available in alternative payments. So, yeah, very successful conference.
Yes,
That's very cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I believe that is all we've got, unless anyone has any other questions. We're going to let you all go. Alex, Mark, thank you so much for doing this with us. As always, it's been a huge pleasure and honor working with both of you guys. Big fan of what you both are doing at your respective companies.
absolutely. It's been a
Excellent.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.